His fist slammed into her chest. Again, again, again. A woman lay dying on a Manhattan sidewalk, her lips turning blue. Her eyes rolled back and 100 people walked right past her like she was garbage. Ryan Mitchell dropped to his knees on that filthy concrete, locked his hands over her sternum, and started pumping. He didn't know her name. He didn't know she was worth $4 billion. He didn't know that in exactly 90 seconds her heart would stop completely. And the choice he made in the next 3 minutes would either save her life or haunt him forever. But here's what nobody expected. What happened after she survived didn't just change his life. It destroyed everything he thought he knew about himself. Before we go on, drop a comment and tell me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story reaches. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and turn on that bell because tomorrow I've got something you won't want to miss. The number 6 train screeched into the station at 8:47 p.m. and Ryan Mitchell felt every single one of his 37 years grinding through his bones. 12 hours, 12 straight hours of hauling boxes at the Mason Brothers warehouse in Brooklyn, and his shoulders burned like someone had poured acid under the skin. His work boots, the ones with the sole peeling off the left foot, dragged against the platform stairs. His back popped twice on the way up. He didn't even flinch anymore. Pain was just background noise now, like the sirens and the car horns and the guy on the corner yelling about the end of the world. Ryan pulled out his phone. 8:48. If he caught the 9 o'clock bus, he'd be home by 9:20. Lily would still be awake. They could talk. Maybe she'd tell him about her day, about whatever happened at school, about whatever was making her laugh lately. That was the thing that kept him moving. Not the paycheck, not the pride, just the 20 minutes before bedtime when his daughter would curl up next to him and the world would shrink down to something manageable. He stopped at the bodega on the corner. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, flickering the way they always did. Ryan's lunch bag was still full. He'd skipped eating to save the sandwich for tomorrow. Stretched the grocery budget one more day, but Lily had texted him about a school project, so he grabbed a pack of poster board and a set of colored markers. $13. He stood at the register and stared at the bill in his hand, doing math he hated doing. "You okay, man?" The cashier looked at him. "Yeah." Ryan handed over the money. "I'm good." He wasn't good. He was $230 short this month. Same as last month, same as the month before that. But that was a problem for midnight when Lily was asleep and the bills were spread across the kitchen table like a jury waiting to deliver a verdict. Right now, he just needed to catch that bus. Ryan stepped back onto the sidewalk and checked the time again. 8:52. 8 minutes. He picked up his pace, weaving through the usual Manhattan crowd, suits, headphones, everyone moving fast, nobody looking at anybody. That's when he saw her 100 feet ahead. A black woman, early 50s, expensive suit, the kind of outfit that probably cost more than his rent. She'd stopped walking, one hand pressed flat against a building wall. The other clutched her chest. Ryan slowed down. Maybe she was tired. Maybe she'd had too much to drink. Maybe it was none of his business. He had a bus to catch. A daughter waiting. Then her knees buckled. She went down hard. Not a stumble, not a slip, a full collapse like someone had cut her strings. Her leather briefcase skidded across the concrete. Her body hit the sidewalk and convulsed. Once, twice, and then that sound, that awful gurgling, gasping sound of someone trying to breathe through a chest that wouldn't cooperate. The crowd kept moving. A guy in a gray suit glanced down, checked his watch, and stepped around her. A woman with a stroller veered wide without breaking stride. A teenage kid pulled out his phone and started recording. Nobody stopped. Ryan's lunch bag hit the ground before he even realized he'd let go.
The flight attendant tried to block him, but the woman stepped forward, flashing something from her leather bag. But by then he was already pushing through the crowd, his heart slamming against his ribs so hard he could hear it in his ears. She told the attendant calmly.
"Not again.
Let him through."
"God, please."
Inside the cockpit, alarms blinked in angry red
patterns.
patterns.
Her.
The captain looked pale. "We've got no power, no restart,"
it was
he
worse
said.
than he'd thought.
"They're asking
her
for a
skin
call
had
sign
gone
like we're
gray,
military.
a sick ashen color that
They
he'd
think
seen
I'm
before,
here,"
that
Ethan
he'd never
replied.
wanted to see
The
again.
captain stared.
Her lips were turning blue.
Ethan
Her eyes
reached
were
for the
wide
radio.
open,
His
staring
hand
at nothing,
trembled
full
once,
of terror.
only once.
"Ma'am."
"This
Ryan
is
grabbed
Ghost
her
7,
shoulder.
he said into the
"Ma'am,
mic,
can you hear
voice
me?"
steady and
Nothing.
clear.
Her chest
"Repeat,
barely moved.
Ghost 7,
"Ma'am,
aboard
I'm going to
civilian
help
flight
you.
214,
Stay with me."
requesting
He looked
glide
up at the
vector."
crowd.
There
People
was a
were actually
pause, then
slowing
relief
down now.
flooded the frequency.
Not to help, just to
"Ghost
watch.
7, Eagle
A
2
circle was
copies.
forming.
We'll guide you
Phones
in."
were out. Somebody
The woman
call
stood quietly
911,
behind him,
Ryan
arms
shouted.
folded,
Nobody
as if
moved.
she had expected
Call
this all
911
along.
right now.
You
A
knew,
young
he
woman
said
in yoga
without
pants
turning.
finally fumbled
I
her
work
phone
with the
out of her
Federal
pocket.
Aviation Administration,
Her hands
she
were
replied.
shaking so
When
badly
both
she
engines
almost
went out
dropped it.
simultaneously,
I'm
we
calling.
flagged it as
Tell them
more than
cardiac
mechanical.
arrest corner of
We
Lexington
cross-checked
and
the passenger
53 Road.
manifest.
Tell
You
them
were
we need
named, triggered a
paramedics
file.
now. Ryan
Why
didn't
would the
wait for her to
FAA have
confirm.
my file?
His hands were already
She
moving.
hesitated, then
Tilt the
answered
head
honestly.
back. Check the airway.
Because you once
Hands in the
saved a
center of the
city by
chest,
landing where
one
no
over
one
the
thought
other.
you could.
Heel of the
He
palm
remembered
down.
that day, the
Elbows
crippled
locked.
jet,
Push
the
hard.
impossible
Push
runway,
fast.
the way his
30
wife had
compressions.
smiled at him
2
afterward and
breaths.
said,
Don't
"You
think.
always come
Just
home."
count. 1, 2,
He
3,
guided the
4.
powerless
The
aircraft
CPR
through the sky,
certification at the
listening as
warehouse
the fighter
mandatory
pilots
every
relayed
year.
headings
The
and
class
descent
he'd sat
angles.
through half
It
asleep
was not so
doodling on the
different from
handout
before.
while the instructor
Fear
talked
still
about
whispered,
compression
but
depth
training
and
spoke
rescue
louder.
breathing ratios.
Outside the window,
Every
the
word of
runway
it came
appeared like
flooding
a
back
thin
like
gray
it had been
thread.
tattooed on his
Speed's
brain.
dropping, the captain
5,
warned.
6,
Hold it,
7,
Ethan
8.
murmured.
His
The
arms
cabin
burned.
was silent
The
now.
woman's body
Even
jerked
Lily
with
had
each
stopped
compression.
crying.
Her
The
designer
wheels
jacket
touched
bunched up
hard,
under
the
his
plane
hands.
skidded,
Sweat
shuddered,
rolled down his
metal
temple,
protesting
even
against
though the
asphalt.
evening air was
For
cold
a
enough to
terrible
see his
second,
breath.
Ethan thought they would
1,
veer
2,
off.
1, 3,
Then they
1, 4.
stopped.
Don't think about her
Stillness.
face.
No flames,
Don't
no
think about the
smoke.
color of her
Just
lips.
breathing.
Don't think
The
about, but
cockpit
he was
erupted
already
in
thinking about
exhalations
it.
and
Emma on
disbelieving
the kitchen
laughter.
floor.
Ethan
3
stepped
years
back
ago,
from the
he'd
controls.
come home from a
When he
double
returned
shift
to row
tired
8,
just like
Lily
tonight,
launched
and found
herself
her
into his
lying between the
arms.
stove and
"You
the
fixed it,"
refrigerator,
she whispered.
still in her
He
scrubs
held
from
her
the nursing
tightly.
home where she
"We
worked.
fixed it."
Her
The
coffee
woman
mug
stood in the
shattered on the
aisle,
tile
gathering
next
her
to her.
bag.
Her eyes
"Who
open,
are you?"
her
he
body
asked.
already cooling.
She considered
The
him for a
aneurysm
moment.
had been instant. The
"Someone who
doctor
knew
said
the
later.
sky wasn't
A blood
finished with
vessel
you,"
in her
she
brain
said
just
gently.
burst without
He
warning.
noticed something
Nothing
then.
anyone
A
could have
small
done.
silver
She
pin on
was
her
gone
lapel,
before she hit
a
the
pair of
floor.
wings,
But Ryan
military
had tried.
issue.
God,
"You
he
weren't
tried.
just
He dropped to
FAA,"
his
he
knees on
said.
that kitchen tile and
"No,"
pumped
she
her chest
admitted.
and screamed her
"I
name
flew search
until
and
his voice
rescue.
gave out.
We once scrambled
The
to find a
paramedics
downed
had to
jet with
physically
the call
drag him
sign
off her.
Ghost 7.
He'd fought them,
You got yourself
swung at
home
one of
before
them,
we could reach you."
because stopping meant
Their
admitting
eyes
she was
held.
gone, and he
"You gave
wasn't
a
ready
lot,"
for that.
she continued
He'd
softly.
never be ready
"Today,
for that.
you took something back."
181920
Boarding
this time
stairs
is
rolled
different.
toward the plane.
She's still
Emergency
breathing.
crews waited
There's still
below.
time.
The world resumed its
22:23.
noise.
Is she
As she
dead?
stepped toward
Someone
the
in the
exit,
crowd
she
asked
paused.
just like that,
"Row
like
8
they were
suited
asking
you,"
about
she
the
said
weather.
with a faint smile.
Should he be
"But
doing
you don't
that?
have to stay
Another
quiet
voice.
forever."
What if he hurts
Then
her?
she was gone.
Ryan blocked them
Ethan
out.
looked at Lily, at the
282930.
sunlight spilling
He
across
tilted
the
the woman's
cabin,
head back,
at the
pinched
ordinary
her nose,
miracle of being
sealed his
alive.
mouth over hers,
For
and gave
years,
2
he had
breaths,
believed the most
watched her
important
chest
chapter
rise,
of his
went
life
back to
ended with
compressions.
loss. But
1,
as the
2,
doors
3,
opened
4.
and fresh air
His
rushed
shoulders
in,
were
he
screaming
realized
now.
something
His
simple
hands were
and
going
startling.
numb. The
The
muscles in
sky
his
had
forearms
asked for his
twitched and
name,
cramped.
and he
He'd
had
been at
answered.
this for what? 2 minutes 3. It felt like an hour. Come on, come on. Don't you quit on me. Where's the ambulance? The yoga pants woman was still on the phone, her voice climbing toward hysteria. He's been doing CPR for like 5 minutes. Yes, she's on the ground. No, I don't know who she is. 151617. Ryan pressed harder. The woman's ribs flexed under his hands. He felt something shift, maybe crack, and he didn't care. Cracked ribs heal. Dead people don't. 2526. Then sirens. Faint at first, then building, cutting through the noise of traffic and crowd chatter like a knife. 2932. More breaths. The paramedics came through the crowd fast. A woman and a man stretcher rattling behind them, equipment bags bouncing on their shoulders. The woman was Hispanic, late 30s, calm eyes, fast hands. Her name tag read Martinez. I got a pulse, Ryan said. His voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. Ross scraped hollow. Weak, but it's there. Martinez dropped beside the woman and took over without hesitation. Her partner was already on the other side fitting an oxygen mask, attaching monitors. How long was she down? Martinez asked. Maybe 2 minutes before I got to her. I did compressions for about 3-4 minutes. Martinez looked up at him just for a second. Something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe. Respect. You saved her life, she said. Then she was back to work, calling out vitals, directing her partner. They moved like a machine, practiced efficient, no wasted motion. Within 90 seconds, the woman was on the stretcher and being wheeled toward the ambulance. Ryan stood up, his knees cracked, his legs nearly buckled. He looked down at his hands. They were shaking badly, trembling like he was standing in a blizzard instead of a Manhattan sidewalk. The woman's briefcase was still on the ground, papers scattered around it. Ryan gathered them up carefully, the way you handle things that belong to someone who might not be alive in an hour, and handed the briefcase to Martinez as they loaded the stretcher. Thank you, Martinez said. What's your name? Ryan. Ryan Mitchell. Ryan, you should be proud of what you did tonight. Then the ambulance doors slammed shut. The siren screamed. The lights painted the buildings red and white as they tore off into Manhattan traffic. And just like that, it was over. The crowd dissolved in seconds. The teenager was probably already uploading his video. The businessman in the gray suit was probably 3 blocks away by now. Never knowing, never caring. Within 30 seconds, the sidewalk looked exactly the way it had before, like nothing had happened, like a woman hadn't almost died right here on this spot, like a man hadn't fought to bring her back. Ryan bent down and picked up his lunch bag. The sandwich inside was crushed flat. The poster board stuck out at an angle, one corner bent and ruined. His hands still wouldn't stop shaking. He walked to the bus stop on autopilot. 9:14 p.m. He'd missed his bus. Ryan collapsed onto the hard plastic seat and pulled out his phone. His fingers trembled so badly it took 3 tries to type the message. Daddy will be home 10 minutes late. Baby girl, love you. The response came instantly. Okay, Daddy, I finished my homework, followed by a heart emoji. His 9-year-old daughter, still not too cool for heart emojis. Ryan stared at that little red heart until his vision blurred. He put the phone away and pressed his palms flat against his thighs, trying to force the shaking to stop. It didn't. The next bus pulled up. He climbed on, found a seat in the back, and watched Manhattan slide past the window. Somewhere in this city, that woman was in an emergency room. Doctors were cutting open her chest, running tubes, making decisions that would determine whether she'd see the morning. And here he was just trying to get home to his kid. He'd probably never know if she made it. That was fine. He did what he could. He did what Emma would have wanted him to do. That had to be enough. The bus dropped Ryan off at 9:34 p.m. 5 flights of stairs to climb. The elevator had been broken for 6 months. The landlord kept promising. Nobody believed him. Ryan's legs protested on every step. 3rd floor. Mr. and Mrs. Delgado shouting at each other through the walls. 4th floor. Somebody's TV blasting a basketball game. Normal sounds. Home sounds. He reached apartment 5C and paused hand on the doorknob. Through the thin door, he heard Lily's laugh, bright, clear, like a bell ringing in a quiet church. Whatever weight he'd been carrying suddenly got lighter. The door flew open before he could turn his key. Daddy. Lily launched herself at him like a missile. Arms around his waist, face pressed into his stomach. At 9 years old, she barely reached his chest, but her hugs could crack ribs. Hey, baby girl. Ryan dropped his bag and scooped her up, ignoring the way his back screamed at him. You get taller every day, I swear. Mrs. Alvarez measured me. I grew half an inch since last month. Her face glowed. Her cornrows bounced, decorated with the colorful beads her mother used to put in the tradition Lily refused to let go of. And I got an A on my math quiz. And Tommy shared his cookies at lunch. And slow down, sweetheart. Ryan laughed. Let me at least get through the door, Ms. Alvarez appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. 72 years old, 40 years in the building, watched Lily 3 evenings a week when Ryan worked his second shift. He paid her what he could. She never once said it wasn't enough. She ate already, Mrs. Alvarez said. Chicken nuggets and green beans. Homework's done, too. Smart girl, you're Lily. Thank you, Mrs. Alvarez. I honestly don't know what we'd do without you. The old woman waved him off. We take care of each other. That's what neighbors do. She patted Lily's head as she passed. Be good for your daddy, mija. Good night, Mrs. Alvarez. The door clicked shut and it was just the two of them. The apartment was small: living room, kitchen, and dining area, all one space. 2 tiny bedrooms, 1 bathroom, 600 square feet of everything they had. Ryan's stomach growled. He'd skipped lunch, skipped the sandwich, saved it for tomorrow. You hungry, baby? No, but you need to eat. I'll help. Lily was already pulling out a pot, filling it with water like she'd done 100 times before. 20 minutes later, they sat across from each other at the kitchen table. Spaghetti with sauce from a can, boiled greens on the side, the same meal they'd had 3 times this week. Lily twirled her fork in the pasta, then looked up at him with those big brown eyes. Emma's eyes the exact same shade, the exact same way they caught the light. Daddy. Yeah, baby. How come Kesha at school has an iPad and I don't? Ryan's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. He set it down carefully. Who's Kesha? She's in my class. She brought her iPad for show and tell. It has games and movies and everything. Lily wasn't whining, Wasn't complaining, just asking. Pure curiosity that somehow made it worse. I told her I don't have one, and she asked why not. The question sat between them like a weight. Ryan wiped his mouth with a paper napkin, buying himself a few seconds. Then he reached across the table and took her small hand in his. Baby girl, we have something Kesha might not have. What? Each other. We have love. We have time together every single night. Some kids, their parents are so busy making money they forget to actually be with their kids. You understand? Lily nodded slowly. Then she smiled, that gap-toothed grin that could light up a whole building. So we're rich in the important stuff. Exactly. Mommy used to say that. She sure did. Mommy said love is the best thing you can have. She was right about that, baby. She was always right about that. They finished dinner and washed dishes together. Lily talked nonstop about her science project, her hands flying as she explained, I want to make a model of a heart, Daddy. A real one, like the human heart. She grabbed a piece of paper and started sketching. See, the blood goes in here and then it pumps through these parts and misses. Rodriguez said, if I do a really good job, I might win the science fair. That's amazing, sweetheart. Why a heart? Lily's face changed. The excitement drained away, replaced by something too old for a 9-year-old. Because that's what was wrong with Mommy, right? Her heart stopped working. Ryan's throat closed up. They'd talked about this before. It never got easier. That's right, baby. Mommy had something called an aneurysm. Her brain and her heart stopped talking to each other. If I learn about hearts really good, Lily said quietly, maybe I can help other people's mommies not die. Ryan pulled her into a hug so she wouldn't see his face. He pressed his eyes into her hair and held on. You're going to do amazing things, Lily. I know it. Will you help me build it? Of course. We'll figure it out together. By 10 o'clock, Lily was in bed. Cartoon star blanket pulled up to her chin. Ryan sat on the edge of the mattress, same as every night. Tell me about Mommy, Lily said, her eyes already half closed. What do you want to know? The story about how you met. Ryan smiled. 100 times she'd asked. 100 times he'd told it. I was working at a bookstore. Your mommy came in looking for a book about gardening. I tried to impress her by recommending one, but I grabbed the wrong book. It was about garden gnomes. Lily giggled. She thought it was hilarious. She laughed so hard she snorted. And I thought right then, I'm going to marry this woman someday. And you did. And I did. He kissed her forehead. Now go to sleep. School tomorrow. Love you, Daddy. Love you more, baby girl. He left her door cracked open the way she liked it and went back to the kitchen. The bills were waiting. Rent $1,400. Electric $127. Phone $65. Internet $50 because Lily needed it for school. Groceries $300 if he stretched every dollar to breaking. The funeral home still wanted $3,200 for Emma's burial. They'd been patient. Patience has limits. Ryan pulled out his phone calculator. Warehouse salary after taxes, $200. Weekend security shifts, $400. Total, $2,500. Total expenses, $2,730 minimum. And that didn't include new shoes for Lily. Didn't include school supplies. Didn't include the $13 he'd spent tonight on poster board and markers. Short $230. Again, he'd already canceled Netflix, already switched to the cheapest phone plan, already stopped buying coffee, stopped going out, stopped doing anything that cost a single dollar. He didn't absolutely have to spend. There was nothing left to cut. Ryan dropped his head into his hands and sat there for a long time. On the side table, Emma's wedding photo watched him quietly. Her simple white dress, $60 from a thrift store. The flowers from a bodega. City Hall ceremony. 2 friends as witnesses. The happiest day of his life. Baby, I'm trying my best. Ryan whispered to the photograph. I hope you're proud of us. The apartment was silent except for the muffled sound of the Delgado's TV through the wall. Ryan stared at the bills. Then he organized them into a neat pile the way Emma used to. She always said keeping them organized made them less scary. Even when they weren't, he'd figure it out. He always did. Tomorrow he'd wake up at 5:30, get Lily ready for school, work 10 hours at the warehouse, come home, do it again. That was the deal. Now, no dreams, no what-ifs, just one day at a time. But tonight, just for a minute, Ryan let himself feel all of it. The loneliness, the exhaustion, the constant grinding fear that he wasn't enough, that Lily deserved better, that Emma was watching from somewhere disappointed in the mess he'd made of things. Then he stood up, turned off the kitchen light, went to bed, because tomorrow Lily would wake up smiling, and that was worth everything. 3 days passed. Ryan went back to his routine warehouse shifts, weekend security homework, help bedtime stories. He didn't think about the woman on the sidewalk. Not once. She was alive or she wasn't. He'd done what he could. He had no idea that at that very moment in a private room at Mount Sinai Hospital, a woman was waking up from the dead, and the first thing she wanted to know was his name. Catherine Sterling opened her eyes to white ceiling tiles and the steady beep of machines she didn't recognize. Everything hurt. Her chest felt like someone had parked a truck on it and left it running. Her throat was raw, scraped like she'd swallowed broken glass. Her arms were heavy with tubes and tape. For a long, disorienting moment, she had no idea where she was or why her body felt like it had been taken apart and reassembled by someone in a hurry. Then it hit her. All of it. The crushing pressure in her chest on that sidewalk. The sky tilting sideways, the concrete rushing up to meet her face. And then hands, strong hands pressing against her sternum, a voice cutting through the roaring in her ears, calm and steady, and refusing to let her go. Miss Sterling. A face appeared above her. A black woman, late 40s, white coat, stethoscope around her neck, eyes that were kind but carried the weight of someone who delivered bad news for a living. I'm Drive Williams, head of cardiology. You're at Mount C. You've been here about 6 hours. Catherine tried to speak, but her mouth was a desert. Doctor. Williams held a cup with a straw to her lips. Small sips. Your throat's going to be sore from the intubation. Catherine took 2 sips that felt like swallowing fire. Then she managed one word. What happened? You had a massive heart attack. Dr. Williams pulled up a chair and sat down. And something about the deliberateness of that gesture, the sitting down, the settling in, told Catherine this was going to be worse than she thought. Technically, you were clinically dead for approximately 90 seconds. Catherine stared at her. A bystander performed CPR on you until paramedics arrived. That man saved your life, Miss Sterling. Without him, we would not be having this conversation right now. Dead. She'd been dead. 90 seconds of nothing. No heartbeat, no breath, no billion-dollar company, no corner office, no private jet, no name on a building, just a body on a sidewalk that 100 people walked past, but one didn't walk past. Who was he? Catherine's voice came out like sandpaper. I need to thank him. I need to find. He didn't leave his name. The paramedic said he helped load you into the ambulance and then he was just gone. By the time anyone thought to get his information, he disappeared. That's not possible. Catherine gripped the bed rail so hard her knuckles went white. Security cameras, witnesses, someone saw something. I'll have the hospital administrator contact you about that. Right now, you need to rest. We're keeping you here at least a week for observation. But Catherine was already reaching for her phone on the bedside table. Her fingers shook so badly she could barely hold it. Miss Sterling, you really should. I need to make one call. The CEO voice, the voice that closed deals and ended arguments and made boardrooms go quiet. Please, doctor. Williams hesitated. Then she nodded and left. Catherine dialed David Ortega, head of her personal security team. He picked up before the first ring finished. Miss Sterling, thank God. I heard about David. I need you to find someone. A man probably in his 30s. White. He was on the corner of Lexington and 53rd last night around 9 p.m. He performed CPR on me. The paramedics said he left before anyone got his name. I'll get on it immediately. I want everything. Name, address, background. I don't care what it costs or how long it takes. Find him. Understood. Are you okay? Should I come to the I'm alive because a stranger saved me and didn't even wait around for a thank you? Catherine looked at the IV in her arm at the monitors, tracking every beat of a heart that had tried to quit on her. Find him, David. She hung up and lay back against the pillows. Exhaustion pressed down on her like a physical weight, but her mind wouldn't stop. Someone had saved her life and wanted nothing for it. In her world, the world of quarterly earnings and stock options of people who smiled at her because she could write checks with a lot of zeros, that was impossible. Everyone wanted something. Everyone had an angle. That was the first lesson her father had taught her about business. And 30 years had proven him right every single time. But this man had knelt on a dirty sidewalk and fought for her life and then just walked away like it was nothing. Like saving a stranger was just something you did on your way to the bus stop. Catherine pressed her hand against her chest, feeling the dull ache where his compressions had cracked at least 2 of her ribs. He'd pressed hard enough to break her bones, hard enough to restart her heart. Who does that? For 3 days, Catherine lay in that hospital bed and thought about almost nothing else. She ran a company with 12,000 employees and operations in 14 countries. But every time she closed her eyes, all she could see was a blur. A man's face above her, hands on her chest, a voice telling her to stay. She checked herself out of the hospital on the 3rd morning against medical advice. Dr. Williams was furious. You had a massive cardiac event. Your heart is damaged. You need rest monitoring. I need to be in my office, doctor. You need to be alive, Miss Sterling. Which you won't be for much longer if you keep ignoring. Schedule the follow-ups. I'll keep every appointment, but I'm leaving today. Williams stared at her for a long moment. You know, most people who come back from clinical death take a few days to reflect on their priorities. That's exactly what I'm doing. An hour later, Catherine sat in her corner office on the 45th floor of the Sterling Tech building, a file folder on her desk. David had delivered it personally. He'd stood in front of her with that unreadable expression he wore when he had information she wasn't going to like. His name is Ryan Mitchell, David said. Everything's in there. What aren't you telling me? Read the file, Miss Sterling. Then we'll talk. Catherine opened the folder after David left. The first page was a DMV photo. Ryan Mitchell, age 37. Sandy brown hair slightly too long. Tired eyes, the kind of tired that doesn't come from one bad night, but from years of them. But there was something in his face, even in a DMV photo. A slight smile, like he was thinking about something good, something worth holding on to. This was him, the man who brought her back from the dead. She turned the page. Ryan Marcus Mitchell, born in Brooklyn, high school diploma, no college. Employed at Mason Brothers warehouse for 4 years, loading dock inventory management, forklift certified. Also worked weekend security at a shopping center in the Bronx. Widowed 3 years ago. Wife Emma Mitchell died of a brain aneurysm at age 32. Catherine's hand went to her chest. One daughter, Lily Mitchell, age 9, P.S. 234 in the Bronx. Honor roll student. Current residence 1247. Grand Concourse Apartment 5C Bronx. Monthly rent $1,400. Estimated annual income $30,000. Outstanding debts $3,200 to Evergreen Funeral Home for wife's burial services. $847 in medical bills from daughter's emergency room visit, broken arm previous year. Credit score 620. Catherine stopped reading. She stood and walked to the windows. Central Park stretched out below her, the trees just starting to turn gold. Joggers moved along paths that cost more to maintain than Ryan Mitchell earned in a year. She'd almost died 3 days ago. And the man who saved her was working 2 jobs to keep a 1-bedroom apartment while still paying off his wife's funeral. His dead wife, the mother of his child, 3 years, and he still owed money on her burial. Catherine's own childhood hit her without warning. The tiny apartment in Queens. Her father, James Sterling, working 70-hour weeks building a dry cleaning business from nothing. Her mother altering clothes for neighbors at the kitchen table for extra cash. Dinner was rice and beans 3 nights a week. New shoes happened at Christmas, or not at all. She'd shared a bedroom with her grandmother until she was 12. Slept on the couch after that. Her father had turned that one dry cleaning shop into a chain, then pivoted into tech when the internet exploded. By the time Catherine took over as CEO at 35, Sterling Tech was worth billions. She'd earned her way. Nobody gave her anything, but somewhere along the line, she'd forgotten what it felt like to choose between the electric bill and groceries. She'd forgotten what exhaustion looked like when it lived in your bones permanently. She went back to the desk. The last page in the file was a photo pulled from social media. Slightly grainy. Ryan and a little girl at what looked like a school event. Both laughing at something off camera. The girl wore a homemade costume, probably for a play. Ryan had his arm around her shoulders. His face was different here than in the DMV photo. Open, unguarded, full of something that money couldn't manufacture. Despite everything, the file said, the debt, the loss, the grinding, daily survival, they looked happy. Not performing happiness, not the kind of happy you put on for Instagram, the real thing. Catherine stared at that photo for a long time. Then she picked up the phone. Jennifer, cancel the board meeting. Cancel, but Miss Sterling, it's been on the schedule for reschedule for next week and clear my afternoon tomorrow. Is everything all right? Catherine looked at the photo again. A man who'd saved her life while drowning in his own. A father working 2 jobs and still smiling. I just need to do something important. She spent the rest of that day reading the file again and again. David's notes from discreet inquiries painted a picture she'd already expected. Neighbors said Ryan Mitchell was proud, independent, the kind of man who'd return a $5 bill if you dropped it, but who'd rather starve than take a handout. He'd turned down help from his church after Emma died, turned down a GoFundMe that Lily's school tried to organize. Turned down everything that smelled like charity. Catherine understood that. Her father had been the same way. Pride wasn't stubbornness. It was the last thing you had when everything else was gone. But this wasn't charity. This man had given her back her life. She owed him everything. The question that kept circling her mind, keeping her up past midnight in her empty penthouse, was simple and impossible. How do you repay someone for your own existence without insulting the dignity that made them save you in the first place? She called David again at 11 p.m. I need everything about his skills, work history, employer reviews, anything that tells me what he's capable of tomorrow morning. May I ask what you're planning? I'm going to offer a good man the opportunity he deserves. I just need to make sure he can't say no. The next evening, Catherine's driver pulled up to 1247 Grand Concourse at exactly 6:30 p.m. She told him to park around the corner. A black woman stepping out of a Mercedes with tinted windows in this neighborhood would generate exactly the kind of attention she didn't want. She climbed 5 flights of stairs. By the 3rd floor, her chest ACHD, a sharp reminder that she'd had a heart attack 72 hours ago. By the 5th floor, she had to stop and lean against the wall, breathing hard, wondering if this was what Ryan did every single night after 12 hours of manual labor. Apartment 5C. She could hear voices inside, a child's laughter, a man's low response. She almost turned around. This was insane. She was a Fortune 500 CEO standing in a hallway that smelled like someone's dinner, about to knock on a stranger's door and would offer him money. Thank him. Try to explain what it felt like to come back from the dead. She knocked. The laughter stopped. Quick footsteps. The door opened. A little girl with cornrows and colorful beads and enormous brown eyes looked up at her. Hi. Then the smile. Enormous. Infectious. The kind of smile that made you believe the world might actually be okay. Daddy. There's a pretty lady at the door. Movement behind her. Then Ryan appeared. Faded t-shirt, jeans, barefoot, clearly just home from work. His expression shifted from curious to stunned. In about half a second, recognition hit him like a wall. It's you, he said. It's me. Catherine tried to smile despite her heart hammering against her damaged ribs. I'm Catherine Sterling. You saved my life last Tuesday. Ryan's hand went to the back of his neck. I just did what anyone would do. I'm glad you're okay. Anyone wouldn't have done it. 100 people walked past me. You stopped. She pulled an envelope from her purse. Her hands shook slightly. I came to thank you properly. Daddy, who is she? Lily tugged his shirt. This is the lady I told you about, baby. The one who was sick. Lily's eyes went wide as dinner plates. You saved her like a superhero. Not a superhero, just, Ryan started. Please, Catherine said, may I come in just for a moment? Ryan hesitated, then stepped back. Of course. Where are my manners? Come in. The apartment was exactly what the file had described and nothing like what the file had described. 600 square feet. Yes. Old furniture. Yes. But it was clean and careful and covered with evidence of love. Lily's drawings everywhere. Library books overflowing from a shelf. A blanket in bright colors draped over the couch. Can I get you something to drink? Ryan called from the kitchen. We've got a water. Catherine laughed before she could stop herself. Water would be lovely. Lily hadn't stopped staring. You're really pretty. Are you a movie star? Destiny, Ryan called. Her name is Lily, actually. Catherine corrected gently, then caught herself. I'm sorry. It's fine. Ryan handed her a glass of water. He'd checked it twice before offering it. She gets that a lot. Catherine sat at the table. Lily launched into her science project explanation. The cardboard heart, the chambers, the valves, and Catherine listened, genuinely fascinated. This child in this tiny apartment was dreaming about saving lives. Lily, Catherine finally said, that's absolutely brilliant, but I need to talk to your dad about something important. Would you give us a few minutes? Lily looked at Ryan. He nodded. Go finish your homework, baby. Okay, bye, pretty lady. When she was gone, Catherine slid the envelope across the table. This is $50,000. It's not nearly enough for what you did, but I can't accept that. He didn't touch it, didn't even look at it. You saved my life, Ryan. I did what any decent person would do. His voice was steady but firm. I didn't help you for money, Miss Sterling. Catherine, and I know you didn't, but if I take that money, Ryan interrupted, and his eyes finally met hers. It turns what I did into a transaction. Like I saved you because there was a payoff waiting. Like I wouldn't have done it if you were broke. He shook his head. My wife used to say that doing the right thing is its own reward. I believe that. Something tightened in Catherine's chest that had nothing to do with her heart condition. Your wife was a wise woman. She was. Ryan glanced at the wedding photo. She would have done the same thing I did. Probably would have done it better, honestly. Daddy. Lily's voice from the bedroom. I need help with my math. 1 second, baby. Ryan turned back to Catherine. Look, I appreciate you coming all the way out here. I really do, but I can't take your money. I'm just glad you're okay. But, Daddy, it's word problems, the hard ones. I'm sorry, Ryan said standing. I need to help my daughter with her homework. Catherine stood too. The envelope sat between them untouched. She felt something she hadn't felt in years. Not frustration exactly, though there was that more like awe. In her world, everyone had a price. Everyone wanted something. But here was a man turning down enough money to erase his debts and change his daughter's life because taking it would cost him something money couldn't buy back. She picked up the envelope and put it back in her purse. Then she pulled out a business card. If you ever need anything, and I mean anything, please call me. Ryan took the card, glanced at it, slipped it into his pocket. Good night, Miss Sterling. Good night, Ryan. She walked down all 5 flights in a daze. The $50,000 was still in her purse. She'd come here to help him. Instead, she'd been shown something that stopped her cold what real wealth looked like when it had nothing to do with money. Her driver was waiting. Catherine slid into the back seat and sat in silence as they pulled away. Manhattan glittered through the windshield. Her penthouse was waiting 4,000 square feet of emptiness. She needed a different plan. Ryan Mitchell would never accept charity. His pride wouldn't allow it. His principles wouldn't bend. But maybe, just maybe, he'd accept an opportunity if she could make him see it wasn't a gift. If she could make him believe he'd earned it. Catherine pulled out her phone and called David. I need his full work history, employer evaluations, every supervisor he's ever had. I want to know exactly what he's good at, and I need it by tomorrow morning. May I ask? I'm going to offer him a job. A real one. One he's actually qualified for. And I need to build the case so airtight that his pride can't find a crack in it. 3 days later, Catherine came back to apartment 5C. No envelope this time, a leather portfolio with a job description she'd rewritten 4 times and a salary number she'd argued with her HR director about for an hour. Ryan answered the door in his warehouse uniform, keys in hand, clearly about to leave for his shift. His face shifted when he saw her, not surprised. This time, just guarded. Careful, Miss Sterling. I thought I know what you said about the money. This isn't that. She held up the portfolio. 5 minutes, please. Then I'll drive you and Lily to school and work. Lily appeared behind him, backpack on. The pretty lady's back. 5 minutes later, Catherine sat at the same kitchen table and slid the paper across. Facilities Operations Manager, Sterling Tech. You'd oversee building maintenance, safety systems, vendor management, staff coordination, starting salary $78,000 a year. Full health insurance, dental, vision, 401k with company match. Ryan stared at the paper like it might bite him. You're joking. I spent 3 days reviewing your work history. Your supervisors called you the most reliable person they've ever employed. You solve problems nobody else can solve. People respect you. Catherine leaned forward. I don't need another MBA who looks good in a suit. I need someone who knows how buildings actually work. This is because I helped you. This is because my company needs someone exactly like you. And I wouldn't have known you existed if you hadn't helped me. There's a difference. Ryan picked up the job description. She watched his eyes move down the page, watched him pause at the salary, watched his throat work, watched hope and fear fight each other across his face. Why are you really doing this? His voice dropped low. I helped you one time. One time, and this is life-changing. Because you deserve an opportunity you've never been given. Because talent doesn't only exist in people who can afford college. Catherine's voice softened. And because you remind me of my father. He worked 70 hours a week pressing other people's clothes. If someone had seen his potential earlier, who knows what he could have built. Daddy. Lily stood in the doorway. Does this mean we can go on the Science Museum trip? It's $40. It's a lot more than $40, baby. Ryan said, his voice strained. A lot more, Catherine confirmed gently. Enough that you could definitely go on that trip. Daddy. Lily grabbed his arm. You have to take it. It's not that simple, baby. Why not? Miss Catherine is nice. She's giving you a better job. Mommy always said good things happen to people who help others. Ryan closed his eyes. When he opened them, Catherine saw everything. The fear, the hope, the pride cracking just enough to let the light in. What if I'm not good enough? The words came out rough, almost broken. What if I take this and fail? I've got Lily depending on me. I can't. Then we train you. We support you. We make sure you succeed. Catherine held his gaze. I've run this company for 15 years. I don't make hiring decisions lightly. I believe you can do this job. The question is, do you? Lily tugged his sleeve. Daddy, you're the smartest person I know. You fix everything. You can do this. Ryan looked at his daughter, then at the job offer, then at Catherine. I need time to think. Take until Monday. That's a week. That night after Lily fell asleep, Ryan drove to Woodlawn Cemetery. He sat beside Emma's headstone in the dark. The job offer unfolded in his lap. Something happened, baby. Something big. He told her everything about Catherine, the CPR, the apartment visit, the money he'd turned down, the job that could change everything. I'm scared, Emma. His voice cracked and he didn't try to stop it. What if I'm not smart enough? What if I take this thing and blow it? What if I don't belong in that world? The wind moved through the oak tree above him. Leaves rustled. One drifted down and landed on the headstone right next to where his hand rested. You always believed in me more than I believed in myself, Ryan whispered. I wish you were here to tell me what to do. But she wasn't there, and the decision was his. When he got home, he heard rustling in Lily's room. He knocked softly and opened the door. She was sitting up in bed with a flashlight writing on notebook paper. She tried to hide it when she saw him. What are you working on, baby? Nothing. Lily, she sighed and held out the paper. Reasons Daddy should take the job. 1, more money for food and stuff. 2, we could get a bigger apartment. 3, health insurance so we don't have to worry. 4, Daddy wouldn't be so tired all the time. 5, I could go on the school trip. 6, Daddy deserves something good. 7, Mommy would be proud. Ryan read it twice. The last line blurred. He pulled Lily into his arms and held on. You think Mommy would be proud, Daddy? Lily pulled back and looked at him dead serious. Mommy would be doing a happy dance right now. You're always telling me to be brave and try new things. Now it's your turn. That night after Lily was back asleep, Ryan sat at the kitchen table with 2 pieces of paper in front of him. Lily's list on the left, the job offer on the right. 2 futures. He pulled out his phone and typed a message before he could talk himself out of it. Miss Sterling, this is Ryan Mitchell. If the offer is still available, I'd like to accept. When can I start? He hit send, then sat back and tried to breathe. The response came 2 minutes later. Monday, 8 a.m. Welcome to Sterling Tech. Ryan put down his phone. His hands were steady for the first time in 3 days. He looked at Emma's wedding photo on the side table. That $60 dress, that bodega bouquet, that smile that could have lit up the whole city. We're doing it, baby, he whispered. I don't know if I'm ready, but I'm doing it. He sat there a while longer in the quiet apartment, listening to Lily breathe through the thin wall between their rooms and let himself feel something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Not just hope, something bigger than hope, the terrifying electric feeling of standing at the edge of a life you never imagined and deciding to jump. Monday morning came too fast. Ryan stood in front of the bathroom mirror at 6:15 a.m. fighting with a tie that hadn't seen daylight in 3 years. The last time he'd worn this suit, he'd been standing beside a coffin. The jacket hung loose on his frame. Now he'd lost weight from double shifts and skipped meals. The pants needed a belt he didn't own. The sleeves hit wrong, too short at the wrists. And no matter how many times he adjusted the collar, it looked like the shirt was wearing him instead of the other way around. He looked like a fraud. A warehouse worker playing dress up. Daddy, you're doing it wrong. Lily appeared in the doorway already in her school uniform backpack on, ready to go 20 minutes early for the first time in her life. She climbed onto the closed toilet seat to reach his collar, her small fingers working the silk with a confidence that stopped him cold. Over, under, through, and pull, she said. Mommy taught me. Ryan watched her in the mirror. This 9-year-old girl standing on a toilet seat in a Bronx apartment, tying a tie she'd learned from a woman who'd been dead for 3 years. His throat closed up so tight he couldn't swallow. Your mommy taught you good, he managed. She said, every man needs to know how to tie a tie for important days. Lily finished with a little flourish and stepped back, studying her work with the seriousness of a surgeon reviewing her stitches. Today is an important day, right? Yeah, baby, real important. You look handsome, Daddy. She straightened his collar one more time. You're going to do great. He wished he believed that. Catherine's driver picked them up at 7:15. Lily pressed her nose against the Mercedes window, the entire ride narrating everything she saw. Ryan sat stiff in the leather seat, the job offer folded in his breast pocket like a talisman saying nothing. When they pulled up to PS 234, Lily hugged him hard. Think about it, she said, then caught herself and grinned. Wait, you already said yes, so just be awesome. I'll try, baby. Don't try, do. She poked his chest. That's what mommy would say. Then she bounced up the school steps and was gone. And Ryan was alone in the back of a car that cost more than his annual salary, heading toward a building where he had absolutely no business being. Sterling Tech rose 52 stories into the Manhattan sky. Ryan stood on the sidewalk across the street and stared up at it until a commuter bumped his shoulder and kept walking without apologizing. People flowed around him in every direction. Suits, briefcases, Bluetooth earpieces, everyone moving with a purpose he didn't share. Come on, he muttered. You've got this. He didn't have this. The lobby hit him like walking into a different country. Marble floors so polished he could see his reflection. A tired man in a too big suit staring back up at him. Art on the walls that probably cost more than he'd earn in 5 years. Men and women clicking past in shoes that had never touched a cracked sidewalk carrying coffee cups from places that charged $8 for something he could make for 20 cents. Ryan approached the security desk. The guard white 50s name tag reading Robert looked up and did something with his face that Ryan had seen 1,000 times in his life. Not hostility, just assessment. A quick scan from the ill-fitting suit to the scuffed shoes to the face that clearly didn't match the building. Can I help you? I'm here for my first day. Ryan Mitchell, Facilities Operations Manager. Robert's eyebrows went up just slightly, but enough. ID. I don't have it yet. I'm supposed to get it from our. Can't let you up without ID building policy. Robert's arms crossed, the universal posture of a gatekeeper who decided you didn't belong. I understand, but Miss Sterling told me to come directly to her office. If you could just call up. You have an appointment with the CEO. Not a question, a statement loaded with disbelief. Heat crawled up Ryan's neck. He could feel other people noticing a woman in a power suit glancing over 2 men pausing their conversation to watch. The lobby suddenly felt very large and he felt very small. She hired me personally. If you could just Robert, he's with me. Catherine's voice cut through the lobby like a blade. She walked toward them, fast heels striking marble with authority. Navy suit, perfect posture, the kind of presence that made people step aside without being asked. Miss Sterling. Robert straightened immediately. I apologize. He didn't have ID and protocol requires. I understand. Protocol Robert. Mr. Mitchell is my guest. Please have HR bring his credentials to my office within the hour. Yes, ma'am, right away. Robert's face had turned red. Mr. Mitchell, I apologize for the confusion. Ryan nodded. His voice wouldn't cooperate, so he didn't try. Catherine guided him toward the elevators. Neither spoke until the doors closed, and they were alone, the floor numbers climbing above them. I'm sorry about that, Catherine said. Not your fault. He was doing his job. He was looking at your suit and deciding you didn't belong here. Catherine's voice was flat honest. Let's not pretend otherwise. Ryan didn't argue because she was right. Robert hadn't seen a facilities manager. He'd seen a guy who looked like he should be delivering packages to the loading dock. And honestly, Ryan couldn't blame him because that's exactly what Ryan saw when he looked in the mirror this morning. Catherine's assistant, Jennifer Young Sharp, a smile that seemed practiced but not fake, greeted him warmly. You must be Mr. Mitchell. Welcome to Sterling Tech. Please call me Ryan. Coffee water. We have an espresso machine that's honestly better than most coffee shops. Water's fine. Thank you. Catherine walked him through the building. Ryan followed, trying to absorb everything and failing. The employee lounge had a full kitchen, 3 types of coffee, and a smoothie bar. The gym on the 20th floor had equipment that looked like it belonged in a spaceship. The facilities office on 15 was bigger than his entire apartment. "This is your space," Catherine said, opening the door to a private office with windows overlooking the city. "Your team is down the hall, 5 people. They handle daily operations. You oversee everything, vendors, budgets, safety protocols. You report directly to me." Ryan walked to the window. Manhattan spread below him like a map of someone else's life. His reflection stared back a man in a funeral suit looking lost. "Catherine, I've worked with my hands my whole life. I fix things. I lift things. I solve problems on the floor, not from behind a desk. You'll do both." She came to stand beside him. Facilities management isn't about sitting in meetings. It's about understanding how a building works, how systems connect, what needs fixing before it breaks. You already know all that. You just need to learn the business side. And if I can't, then we'll teach you. She met his eyes in the reflection. "Ryan, I didn't bring you here to fail." The team meeting was at 10 o'clock. 5 people filed into the conference room and Ryan felt every pair of eyes take his measure. 4 white faces, 1 Asian, all dressed better, all clearly wondering who this guy was and why he was sitting at the head of the table. Catherine made introductions. Brad HVAC Systems, early 40s, golf course tan. The easy confidence of a man who'd never had to wonder if he belonged anywhere. Lisa, vendor relationships. Tom, security systems. Rachel, scheduling. David, compliance. Handshakes all around, polite smiles that reached exactly 0 sets of eyes, except Lisa, who seemed genuinely friendly, and Brad, who leaned back in his chair with the casual aggression of someone about to throw the first punch. "So, Ryan," Brad's voice was pleasant enough, but his eyes weren't. "How many years of facilities management experience do you have?" The room went still. Everyone watched. Ryan could feel the test in the question. Not just what he'd say, but how he'd handle saying it. "None." He didn't flinch, didn't look away. "But I have 15 years of hands-on experience maintaining buildings, managing logistics, and solving problems under pressure. I'm here to learn the management side from all of you." Brad's smile thinned. "Oh, well, that's different." Different can be good," Catherine said from the doorway. "Ryan brings practical expertise that's often lacking in management. I'd suggest you take advantage of it." Questions. Nobody spoke. At lunch, the team headed out together. Nobody invited Ryan. He sat alone in his new office eating a peanut butter sandwich from a paper bag while the rest of them laughed over salads at some restaurant he'd never heard of. Through the glass walls, he could watch them go, 5 people who knew exactly where they fit. He thought about Lily eating her own packed lunch in the PS 234 cafeteria. Wondered if she ever felt this invisible. His phone buzzed. A text from Lily. "How's it going, Daddy?" He typed back, "Great baby, learning a lot." He stared at the lie for a second, then hit send. At 2:47 p.m., everything shifted. Lisa appeared at his door, looking like someone had lit her hair on fire. "Ryan, we have a situation." "What's wrong?" "HVAC system on floor 18 just went out. 200 people up there. Temperature climbing. Everyone's complaining and the monthly all-hands meeting starts in 45 minutes on that exact floor." Ryan followed her to the facilities office where Brad was on the phone, his composure cracking for the first time all day. "They can't get anyone here until tomorrow," Brad said, hanging up, quoting 500 just for the emergency call. "Let me see the building schematics," Ryan said. Brad stared at him. "You want to look at the blueprints?" "Yeah, where are they?" 5 minutes later, Ryan had the HVAC layout for the 18th floor spread across a table. The system was more complex than what he was used to. More sensors, more automation, fancier controls, but underneath all the expensive technology, it was still the same thing. Airflow, pressure, temperature regulation. Physics didn't change just because you put it in a nicer building. "I need to see the actual unit," Ryan said. "It's in the mechanical room, but shouldn't we wait for the contractor?" Brad's tone carried a clear message. "You're out of your depth, buddy. We can wait until tomorrow and pay $500, or I can look at it now for free." Ryan met his eyes. "Your call." Brad exchanged glances with the team. Something passed between them. Skepticism, maybe curiosity, probably a bet on whether the new guy was about to embarrass himself. "Fine, this way." The mechanical room was hot, loud, and full of equipment that most people would find intimidating. Ryan felt his shoulders drop for the first time all day. This was his world, pipes and ducts and machines that made sense, things you could touch, test, fix with your hands. He stripped off his jacket, rolled up his sleeves, and climbed up to the main unit. Hand me that flashlight. For 20 minutes, he traced the system, checking connections and pressure points, following the logic of the duct work, the way you'd follow a river to find where it was dammed. The team watched from below. Brad had his arms crossed. Lisa was chewing her thumbnail. Tom kept checking his watch. Then Ryan found it. A valve seized up from corrosion, cutting off airflow to the entire floor. Simple mechanical. The kind of thing that happened when you ran a system hard and skipped the preventive maintenance. There, he called down. Hand me that wrench. Someone tossed it up. Ryan worked the valve free, careful, steady, the way Emma used to say he did everything. You never rush, she'd told him once. Even when everything's falling apart, you take your time and do it right. He gave the valve one final turn, and the system kicked back to life. Cool air rushed through the ducts. The hum of the machinery changed pitch, settling into the steady rhythm of a system running the way it was supposed to. Ryan climbed down. His white shirt was stray with dust and grease. His tie hung sideways. He looked like a mechanic who'd wandered into a corporate building by accident. How did you? Brad started, then stopped himself. That was quick. It's basic mechanics, but you need to schedule quarterly checks on all the HVAC units. This could happen on any floor. Ryan straightened his tie, which only made it worse. If you want, I can put together a preventive maintenance schedule this week. Brad opened his mouth, closed it, and then did something Ryan hadn't expected. He nodded, not grudgingly, not sarcastically. A real nod. Yeah, Brad said, that would be good. Catherine appeared in the doorway. She'd heard about the situation. Of course, she had. She heard about everything, and her eyes moved from the running system to the team's changed expressions to Ryan's ruined shirt. She didn't say anything for a moment, just looked at him. See, she said quietly. I told you. An hour later, the emails started arriving. The 18th floor manager thanking him, a VP who'd been in the all-hands meeting. Then another, then another. By 5 o'clock, Lisa stopped by his office. Hey, some of us grab drinks on Fridays after work. You should come. I've got Lily. Bring her. We're going to a burger place. Kids are welcome. It wasn't much, just an invitation, but it felt like a door opening. Brad showed up in his doorway 5 minutes later, looking uncomfortable in the way men look when they know they owe someone an apology and don't know how to start. Hey, about this morning, that question I asked, I was out of line. You were doing your job making sure the new guy could handle it. Maybe, but you proved yourself today. That valve issue, the contractor would have taken hours to even diagnose it. You did it in 20 minutes. Just happened to know what to look for. That's exactly the point. Brad extended his hand. Welcome to the team for real this time. Ryan shook it, and for the first time since he'd walked into this building, the knot in his chest loosened just enough to breathe. On the subway home, still wearing his dusty grease-streaked shirt, Ryan texted Lily, first day done. I fixed something big. You were right. I can do this. Her response was instant. I told you. Can we celebrate with pizza? He smiled. Yeah, baby, we can celebrate with pizza. The first 3 months were the hardest stretch of Ryan's life, and that included the year Emma died. He arrived at Sterling Tech every morning at 6:30 and rarely left before 7 p.m. After Lily went to bed, he'd spend hours watching YouTube tutorials about building management systems, reading industry manuals, teaching himself spreadsheets and budget software, and the corporate vocabulary that everyone around him spoke fluently, and he was still learning to pronounce. The work itself was fine. Buildings made sense to Ryan. Systems made sense, but the corporate world had its own language acronyms. Nobody explained email chains that went 40 messages deep over something that could have been settled in a 2-minute conversation. Meetings about future meetings. He felt like an immigrant in a country where everyone spoke a language he was learning one painful word at a time. But he showed up every single day. He showed up. Catherine started meeting him for coffee every Tuesday morning at 7 o'clock before the building filled up. They'd sit in her office and she'd walk him through whatever was tripping him up that week. How to read a P&L statement, how to navigate office politics, how to write emails that sounded like a manager instead of a guy describing what he'd fixed. You're doing better than you think, she told him during the 3rd week. Brad still looks at me like I'm going to set something on fire. Brad looks at everyone that way. Give it time. She stirred her coffee. Can I ask you something personal? Sure. Why did you really take this job? Don't say money. I've seen men take high-paying jobs for money. They don't work like you work. Ryan thought about it for a while. My wife Emma, she used to say, tough times were just adventures we hadn't figured out yet. When money was tight, she'd make it into a game. When I was stressed, she'd remind me we were building something together. He paused. After she died, everything just became hard. Just hard. No adventure, no purpose. Just surviving another day, and now I want to show Lily that you can have more than survival. That her mom was right. That tough times can turn into something better if you're brave enough. Catherine was quiet for a moment. My father came to this country with $300. Worked 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, pressing other people's clothes. I slept on the couch until I was 15. Dinner was rice and beans more nights than I can count. Ryan looked at her in surprise. I didn't know that. Most people don't. By the time I went to college, my father had built a chain of dry cleaners. But I remember those early years. I remember him coming home exhausted, hands raw from chemicals, but still smiling. Because we were together and we were making it work. She met his eyes. That's why I hired you. Because I saw the same thing in you that I saw in my father. That refusal to quit. After that conversation, their Tuesday mornings shifted. Less about work, more about understanding each other. Two people from similar starting lines who'd ended up in very different places trying to figure out what they owed each other and themselves. Lily started coming to the office twice a week after school. Ryan would pick her up from PS 234 and bring her back to Sterling Tech where she'd spread her homework across his desk and pepper anyone who walked past with questions. Mr. Brad, what's HVAC stand for? She asked one afternoon. Brad, who'd gone from hostile to grudgingly respectful to something approaching genuine warmth, grinned in spite of himself. Heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Oh, that's what Daddy fixed on his first day. Yeah. Brad glanced at Ryan. Yeah, he did. Catherine took a particular interest in Lily. She'd stop by Ryan's office most afternoons, always with a new science book. Not children's books, but real textbooks about biology and engineering that most fourth graders wouldn't touch. Lily devoured everyone. She reminds me of myself at that age. Catherine told Ryan, curious about everything. Don't let that curiosity die. Month 4. A Tuesday morning, 9:47 a.m. Ryan was in a budget review meeting when the fire alarm exploded overhead. Not the regular test, the real thing. Flashing lights, automated voice, the full evacuation protocol. 52 floors, over 3,000 people, all heading for the stairwells. Ryan grabbed his radio and ran for the security office. Brad was already there, face white. System says fire on 34, but cameras show nothing. I think it's a malfunction. I can't override it. Fire department's on the way. What about the suppression system? Hasn't activated, which means the system's reading a false alarm, but can't confirm it's false. Ryan was already pulling up building schematics. Where's the main control panel for the 34th floor detectors? Mechanical room 34B. But Ryan, we're under evacuation. You can't go up there. If this is a false alarm and the fire department shows up, that's a $15,000 fee. Plus, we shut down the entire building for the day. Ryan was already moving toward the stairs. Radio me if anything changes. Ryan, but he was gone, taking the stairs two at a time, dress shoes slipping on the concrete. By the 18th floor, his legs were burning. By the 28th, his lungs felt like they were filled with sand, but he kept climbing. Mechanical room 34B was exactly where Ryan felt at home. He went straight to the fire detection panel, popped it open, and scanned the circuits. His hands were steady, his breathing was ragged, but his focus was absolute. This was just another system, just another problem, just another thing that was broken and needed someone to fix it. There. Corroded wire connection, sending false readings to the central system. Same kind of failure he'd seen a dozen times in older buildings, just dressed up in fancier hardware. His radio crackled. Ryan, fire department's here. They want to know why someone's inside the building. Tell them I'm fixing their false alarm. 5 more minutes. He stripped the corroded connection, spliced in a new wire, twisted it tight, and reset the panel. The alarm stopped. The silence was so sudden it felt like a physical force. False alarm contained, Ryan said into the radio. Corroded wire in the detector circuit patched it. But we need a full inspection of every fire detection system in the building. This could happen on any floor. By the time he made it back to the lobby, 3,000 employees were filtering back in, and the fire department was packing up. Catherine stood near the security desk with Brad and the rest of the team. Ryan approached, still breathing hard. "I'm sorry if I overstepped. I know evacuation protocol says, you saved us $15,000 in a full day of lost productivity," Catherine interrupted. "And you identified a safety issue we didn't know we had. That's not overstepping. That's exactly what I hired you to do." Brad stepped forward. His expression was different now. Not the grudging respect from the HVAC fix. Something deeper. "I panicked up there," Brad said. "I didn't know what to do. You just handled it. I've seen a lot of false alarms. You learn the patterns." "No." Brad shook his head. "It's more than that. You stayed calm when the rest of us were falling apart. You trusted yourself." He extended his hand. "I owe you an apology. A real one. I've been testing you since day one, giving you the hardest assignments, hoping I don't know." He stopped. "I was wrong. You're not just good at this job. You're better at it than I am." Ryan shook his hand. "You were protecting your team. I would have done the same. Maybe, but I should have seen who you were sooner. We all should have." That afternoon, Catherine called an all-hands meeting, 3,000 employees auditorium plus video conference. She stood at the podium and talked about the fire alarm, about the false reading, about the man who'd run up 34 flights of stairs while everyone else ran down. "This is the kind of problem solving that makes Sterling Tech excellent," she said. Jamal Ryan Mitchell, our facilities operations manager. The applause started slow, then built. Ryan sat in the back row, deeply uncomfortable with 3,000 people looking at him. But Lily, who'd been brought over from school early because of the evacuation, squeezed his hand. "You're famous now, Daddy," she whispered. "I just fixed a wire, baby." "No." She looked at him with those serious eyes. "You showed them who you are." That evening, the whole team went out for burgers. A real invitation this time, not obligation, not pity. They took over a booth in Midtown, and Lily charmed every single one of them. Brad bought her dessert. Lisa showed pictures of her own kids. Tom taught her a secret handshake. Rachel promised to help with her science fair presentation. Ryan sat back and watched his daughter light up a room full of people who doubted him 3 months ago and felt something he'd almost forgotten existed. Hope. Walking home that night, Lily held his hand and skipped beside him on the sidewalk. "Daddy, you know what you told me about when people doubt you? Show them who you are." "Yeah, baby, you did that today. You showed everybody. Thank you, sweetheart. Do you think Mommy's proud, too?" Ryan thought about Emma, about her belief that tough times were just adventures. About how she'd always told him he was stronger than he knew. "Yeah, baby, I think she's real proud." That night, after Lily fell asleep, Ryan sat at the kitchen table and read his first performance review. Catherine had written exceeds expectations in every category. Natural leadership, creative problem solving, genuine care for both systems and people. Recommended for early promotion consideration. 3 months ago, he'd been working double shifts and skipping meals to pay for poster board. He texted Catherine, "Thank you for seeing something in me I didn't see in myself." Her reply came quickly, "I didn't see anything that wasn't already there. You just needed the chance to show it." Ryan looked at Emma's wedding photo. That simple white dress, that smile full of hope for a future she'd never lived to see. "We're doing it, baby," he whispered. "We're building something just like you always said we would." 8 months into the job, Ryan had stopped feeling like an imposter. The work was natural now. The team respected him. Lily was thriving. For the first time since Emma died, life was actually genuinely good. He should have known it wouldn't last. It was a Thursday morning quarterly board meeting. The big one, investors' projections, expansion plans, the kind of high-stakes presentation that made the entire executive floor hum with nervous energy. Ryan had nothing to do with it. His job was keeping the building running, not sitting in boardrooms. He was on the 47th floor checking a ventilation issue when his radio crackled to life. "Medical emergency executive boardroom." Repeat. "Medical emergency executive boardroom." Ryan's blood went cold. He was running before the message finished. Hit the stairwell door so hard it slammed against the wall. Took the stairs 3 at a time. His dress shoes skidding on the concrete. His heart hammering so loud he could hear it over his own footsteps. 5 floors down. 4, 3. Not again. Please God, not again. He burst through the boardroom doors and the first thing he saw was chaos. Board members standing in clusters, some on phones, some frozen, all of them wearing the same expression, the helpless shock of people who'd never been in a room where someone was dying. And there was Catherine slumped over the presentation table, her hand clutched to her chest, her face gray. Dr. Patricia Chen Sterling Tech's medical director was already beside her, 2 fingers pressed against Catherine's neck. Someone call 911 now. Ryan pushed through the crowd. Catherine's eyes were open, but they weren't seeing anything. Just wide and glassy and full of the same terror he'd seen on that sidewalk 8 months ago. The same gasping, the same awful sound of lungs fighting for air that wouldn't come. Catherine. He dropped to his knees beside her. Catherine, can you hear me? Her eyes moved, found his face. Something flickered. Recognition, fear, the kind of desperate plea that didn't need words. Help me get her on the floor, drive. Chen commanded. We need to start CPR. They lowered her to the carpet. Ryan's hands found the center of her chest, one over the other, heel of the palm down, elbows locked. The same position, the same motion, the same desperate arithmetic of compressions and breaths that he'd performed on a dirty sidewalk 8 months ago when she was nobody to him. But his hands were shaking badly. His vision was blurring because this wasn't a stranger anymore. This was Catherine. Ryan. Doctor. Chen's voice cut through like a slap. I need you focused. Can you do this? He swallowed hard. Yes. Then go. I'll handle the airway. 1 2 3 4. He pressed down, counting silently, feeling her ribs flex under his palms. The boardroom had gone quiet except for the rhythm of his compressions and Dr. Chen calling out instructions. Someone was clearing the room. Someone else was on the phone with 911. 8910. His mind split in two. One half was counting, pushing, maintaining the steady cadence that kept blood flowing to her brain. The other half was somewhere else entirely, a kitchen floor 3 years ago. Emma's body already cooling his hands, pumping uselessly against a chest that would never rise again. Don't you do this to me, Catherine. Don't you dare. 151617. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it, kept pushing. Dr. Chen gave 2 rescue breaths, checked the pulse, shook her head. Keep going. His phone buzzed again, then again. Someone answer his phone. Dr. Chen snapped without looking up. Brad grabbed it from Ryan's pocket. His face changed when he saw the screen. It's his daughter. Tell her there's an emergency. Ryan gasped between compressions. Tell her Mrs. Alvarez needs to pick her up from school. Brad answered, Hey, Lily. This is Brad from your dad's work. Your dad's okay, but he's busy right now. But Lily must have heard something in his voice. The tightness, the careful way people talk when they're trying not to scare you, because suddenly her voice came through the speaker high and breaking. What's wrong? Is Daddy okay? Did something happen to Miss Catherine? Ryan's hands faltered just for a half second, just long enough for Dr. Chen to look at him sharply. Daddy. Lily was crying now, full sobs, the kind that came from deep in the belly. Daddy, tell me what's happening. Ryan kept pushing. His arms burned. Sweat ran down his face. Baby. His voice cracked right down the middle. Something happened to Catherine. I'm helping her. I need you to be brave for me. Okay. You have to save her, Daddy. Lily was sobbing so hard. The words barely came out. Like, you saved her before. You have to. I can't lose her, too. I can't lose her, too. The words hit Ryan like a fist in the chest. 5 words that rearranged everything he thought he understood about the last 8 months. When had this happened? When had Catherine stopped being the woman he'd saved on a sidewalk and become someone his daughter loved? Someone whose absence would leave a hole shaped exactly like grief. 252627. I'm trying, baby, he whispered. I'm trying. Brad took the phone out of the room, his voice low and gentle in a way Ryan had never heard from him before. Talking to Lily, the way you talk to a child who's just learned that the world can take people away without asking. 32 breaths from Dr. Chen. Back to compressions. The sirens were getting closer. Ryan kept pushing his shoulders, screaming, his hands numb, his eyes burning. Dr. Chen monitored Catherine's pulse, called out updates in a clinical voice that barely masked her own fear. Pulse is weak, but present. Keep going, Ryan. Don't stop. He didn't stop. The paramedics came through the doors fast. 2 of them stretcher-rattling, equipment bags swinging. They took over immediately, hands moving with the efficient choreography of people who did this every day. Monitors attached. IV started. Oxygen mask fitted. You coming with us? One of them asked Ryan. He didn't hesitate. Yes. In the ambulance, Ryan held Catherine's hand while the paramedics worked around him. Her eyes were closed. The oxygen mask fogged and cleared with each shallow breath. The monitors beeped in a rhythm that kept threatening to stutter. You stay with me, Ryan said quietly, leaning close to her ear. You hear me, Catherine? You don't get to quit. Not after everything. Not now. Her fingers twitched in the smallest movement, but it was there. At Mount C, Dr. Williams was waiting at the entrance. She took one look at Catherine on the stretcher and her expression went tight. Get her to the cardiac unit. Prep for emergency bypass surgery. Wait, what? Ryan followed them down the hallway, still holding Catherine's hand until a nurse physically separated them. What's happening? Doctor. Williams pulled him aside. Her voice was fast but controlled. Catherine has severe coronary artery disease. We've been managing it with medication, but she's been pushing herself, ignoring symptoms, skipping appointments, working through warning signs she should have reported weeks ago. This is unstable angina. Her heart isn't getting enough blood. She needs bypass surgery right now. What are the risks? It's open heart surgery, Ryan. There are always risks. Doctor. Williams held his gaze. But without it, she didn't need to finish. She's strong, Ryan said, more to himself than to her. She'll get through this. I believe she will. But we need to operate now. They wheeled Catherine toward the surgical prep area. Ryan tried to follow. A nurse stepped in front of him. Family only beyond this point. I am family, Ryan said. The words came out before he'd thought about them. But standing there in that hospital hallway with the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead and the gurney disappearing around a corner, he realized he meant it completely in every way that mattered. The nurse looked at Drive. Williams, who nodded, let him say goodbye. Catherine's eyes opened as they paused the gurney. She looked up at Ryan, and for a moment, through the fear and the pain and the fog of whatever they were pumping into her IV, she was fully present. Fully there. Ryan squeezed her hand. You're going to be fine. You hear me? You're going to be fine. And then I'm going to yell at you for working too hard and not taking care of yourself. Her lips moved behind the oxygen mask. A whisper he had to lean down to hear. Sighs bossy. Despite everything, he almost laughed. Yeah, well, get used to it. Then they took her through the double doors and he was standing alone in a hallway that smelled like antiseptic and fear. Mrs. Alvarez brought Lily to the hospital an hour later. His daughter ran down the corridor and slammed into him, face buried in his shirt, arms locked around his waist, shaking. Is she going to die, Daddy? I don't know, baby. His voice sounded like it belonged to someone standing at the bottom of a well. I hope not. She can't die. She can't. I know, sweetheart. You saved her before. You saved her. The doctors are saving her now. They're really, really good. Lily pulled back and looked up at him. Her face was swollen from crying. Snot ran down her upper lip. She looked exactly the way she'd looked 3 years ago when he'd sat her down on the couch and told her that Mommy wasn't coming home. I prayed, Daddy, in the car with Mrs. Alvarez. I prayed really hard. That's good, baby. That's good. They sat in the surgical waiting room. 6 hours. 6 hours of plastic chairs and vending machine coffee and a television mounted in the corner playing a game show that nobody watched. Lily tried to do homework, gave up after 20 minutes. Instead, she pulled out her colored pencils and started drawing. Hearts, detailed anatomical hearts labeled carefully with every chamber and valve she'd learned for her science project. One after another, filling sheet after sheet of paper. What are you doing, sweetheart? Drawing hearts for Miss Catherine. Lily didn't look up. Her hand moved steadily, precisely. So, her heart remembers how to work, right? Ryan pulled her close. This child who'd already lost one person she loved and was now sitting in a hospital waiting room trying to fix another one with colored pencils and faith. When had this happened? When had Catherine become someone whose loss would break them? He thought about 3 years ago, a different hospital, a different waiting room. The same helpless terror of sitting still while someone you loved was on the other side of a wall you couldn't cross. That night, the doctors had come out with their eyes down and their voices soft, and the world had ended. This felt the same, but different. Lily was older now. She understood more. She understood too much. Daddy. Her voice was small, tiny. The voice of a child who'd already learned that asking a question doesn't mean you'll get the answer you want. Yeah, baby. Do you love Miss Catherine? Ryan's breath caught. He stared at the wall across from them, beige blank, offering nothing. She's important to us, baby. But do you love her like you loved mommy? He thought about their Tuesday morning coffees. The way Catherine had fought for him when everyone else doubted. How she'd nurtured Lily's curiosity with books and attention and genuine interest. How she'd given them not just a job, but hope, the belief that their story wasn't over. I don't know, he admitted. But I know I can't imagine our lives without her anymore. Lily nodded like that made perfect sense. Me neither. At 11:34 p.m., Drive. Williams came through the surgical doors. She looked like she'd run a marathon. Shoulders sagging, sweat at her temples, but her face was calm. Ryan stood so fast his vision went black for a second. How is she? The surgery was successful. Triple bypass, 3 blocked arteries. We were able to reroute around all of them. Her heart responded well. Williams allowed herself a small smile. Barring complications, she should make a full recovery. Ryan sat down hard like someone had cut his legs from under him. He covered his face with both hands, and a sound came out of his chest that he couldn't have stopped if he'd tried. Half sob, half gasp. The kind of noise a man makes when he's been holding a wall up for 6 hours and someone finally tells him he can let go. Lily threw her arms around him. See, Daddy, you're not weak. You're brave. Brave people cry, too. He held his daughter and let himself fall apart just for a minute. Let himself feel the weight of almost losing someone again. Let himself acknowledge what Catherine had become to them without trying to name it or control it or pretend it wasn't real. Can we see her? He finally asked, wiping his face with the back of his hand. She'll be in recovery for a few hours. You can see her tomorrow morning. Doctor. Williams put her hand on his shoulder. Ryan, your CPR kept her stable until we could get her here. You should know that. You saved her life again. After Williams left, Ryan sat in the quiet waiting room with Lily asleep against his side. Her drawings of hearts were scattered across the empty chairs like offerings. Thank you, he whispered to the empty room. To Emma, to God, to whatever force in the universe had decided that Catherine Sterling deserved another chance. Thank you. Catherine opened her eyes to monitors and the smell of antiseptic, and the first thing she saw was Ryan asleep in the chair beside her bed. His head was tilted at an angle that would hurt for days. One hand rested near hers on the blanket. His shirt was wrinkled beyond saving. Stubble darkened his jaw. Then she noticed Lily on the visitor's couch, curled up under a hospital blanket, small hands still clutching colored pencils. Papers covered with anatomical hearts spread around her like a nest. They'd stayed. Both of them had stayed all night. Ryan, she whispered. Her throat felt like it had been dragged across gravel. His eyes snapped open instantly. Alert, present the way a father's eyes open. No grogginess, no transition, just immediate and fully awake. Catherine. Hey. He leaned forward carefully and took her hand. You're awake. Thank God. How do you feel? Like someone opened my chest and rearranged the furniture. That's roughly what happened. Triple bypass. How long? Surgery was 6 hours. You've been in recovery since about midnight. He checked his phone. Almost 700 a.m. You stayed all night. Where else would I be? She looked at Lily again, still sleeping, still holding those pencils. She shouldn't have to go through this. She's already lost too much. She loves you, Catherine. Ryan's voice was rough, scraped raw from exhaustion and emotion. We both. He stopped. His jaw worked like he was trying to chew through something hard. Both what? You saved me twice, he said slowly. On that sidewalk, you were a stranger. I had to help. That's what you do. He paused. This time was different. This time I couldn't lose you because you're not a stranger anymore. He stopped again, looked at their hands, looked at Lily, looked at the monitors beeping steadily beside the bed. Your family, he said. I don't know when it happened. I don't know how. But your family, Catherine, and the idea of Lily growing up without you in her life, the idea of me, he couldn't finish. He didn't need to. Catherine could see everything he wasn't saying written across his face like words on a page. Ryan. Her hand tightened around his. I need to tell you something. Okay, I'm falling in love with you. She said it. The way you say something you've been carrying for months, not dramatically, not with fanfare, just with the quiet relief of finally putting it down. With both of you, I have been for a long time. And I know about Emma. I know what she meant to you. I would never try to replace. Love doesn't run out, Ryan said softly. It multiplies. That's what Emma used to say. She was right. I'm scared. The admission came out rough. I'm scared of moving on. Scared of what it means. Scared that if I let myself feel this, I'm betraying her memory. You're not betraying anyone by being happy again. Ryan, you're honoring her by living. By giving Lily a full life. Catherine squeezed his hand. I'm not asking you to forget Emma. I'm asking if there's room for both of us. Ryan was quiet for a long time. The monitors beeped. Lily murmured in her sleep and shifted on the couch. Somewhere down the hall, a nurse laughed at something. Can you give me time? He finally said. There's something I need to do first. Take all the time you need. Over the next week, Ryan and Lily became permanent fixtures in Catherine's hospital room. Every morning before school and work, every evening until visiting hours ended. Lily did homework at the foot of Catherine's bed and read aloud from her library books and explained cardiovascular function with hand gestures that knocked over a water cup twice. Read the part about the heart chambers again, Catherine said. One afternoon, Lily lit up and launched in, and see, that's why your surgery worked. They gave your blood new roads to travel when the old roads got blocked. It's like when there's construction on the highway and they make a detour. You're going to be an incredible doctor someday. Catherine said. Lily paused, then asked with the kind of directness that only 9-year-olds have. Miss Catherine, do you have any kids? No, sweetheart, I never did. How come? I was too busy building my company. I thought I had time for family later, but later never came. Lily climbed onto the bed, carefully, avoiding the IV lines. She settled next to Catherine like she'd done it 1,000 times. It doesn't have to be just you. You have me and Daddy now. Baby, that's not Ryan started. Could you be my stepmom? Lily asked, completely sincere. No strategy, no manipulation. Just a child connecting dots that the adults were too scared to connect themselves. I mean, if you wanted to. I never had a stepmom before, but I think you'd be really good at it. Catherine's eyes filled with tears. Lily, that's why not. Lily looked between them, genuinely confused. You like Daddy, he likes you. I like both of you. That's how families work, right? Saturday morning, Ryan drove Lily to Woodlawn Cemetery. They stopped for yellow roses, Emma's favorite. The spring air was cool and clean, and the oak trees were heavy with new leaves. They walked together to Emma's headstone, and Lily knelt immediately, arranging the flowers with careful hands. Hi, Mommy, we brought you the pretty ones, the yellow ones you liked. Ryan knelt beside his daughter. For a long moment, he just sat there with his hand on the stone trying to find words for something that lived beyond language. Baby, he finally said, I need to tell you something. Someone came into our lives. Someone good. Someone who's been good to me and Lily. Someone who makes me want to smile again. Lily touched his arm. It's okay, Daddy. You can tell Mommy about Miss Catherine. Mommy, Lily said, turning to the headstone. Her name is Catherine, and she's really smart and nice, and she bought me like 100 science books, and she makes Daddy happy. You'd like her. Ryan's eyes burned. Emma, I'll always love you. Always. You gave me Lily. You gave me the best years of my life. His voice broke. He let it. But my heart, I think it's big enough for 2 people. I hope that's okay. I hope you're not. The wind picked up, gentle warm smelling of spring grass and new things growing. The oak tree above them rustled and a single leaf bright green new drifted down and landed on the headstone right next to the roses right next to Ryan's hand. Lily gasped. Daddy, did you see that? I saw it, baby. That's Mommy. That's her saying it's okay. I think you're right. I know I'm right. Lily put her small hand over his. Mommy wants you to be happy. She told me. Ryan looked at her. She told you in my dream last week. She said you deserve to love again. That she picked you because you have so much love to give and it would be sad to keep it all locked up. Lily looked at him with those brown eyes. Emma's eyes and said, and she said to tell you that Miss Catherine is good people. Ryan laughed. The kind of laugh that comes with tears, messy, broken, full of everything at once. He pulled Lily into a hug and held her so tight she squeaked. Your mommy always knew the right thing to say. They sat there for a while longer. Father, daughter, and the memory of a woman who taught them both what love looked like. The morning sun warmed Ryan's face, and he felt something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Not just hope, not just permission, but peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing you're not leaving someone behind by moving forward. You're carrying them with you. Thank you, baby, he whispered to the headstone, for everything. For Lily, for teaching me what love is. I promise I'll never forget you. But I promise I'll keep living the way you'd want me to. Lily stood up and brushed grass off her knees. Can we go see Miss Catherine now? I want to tell her mommy approves. Ryan stood too, took his daughter's hand, looked back at Emma's grave one more time. The yellow roses bright against the gray stone, the green leaf still resting where the wind had placed it. Yeah, baby, we can do that. And for the first time since Emma died, Ryan Mitchell felt like his heart was ready to love again. Not because the old love had faded, but because it had grown big enough to hold something new. 6 months later, on a perfect Saturday afternoon in October, Ryan Mitchell stood beneath an oak tree in Riverside Park and tried to remember how to breathe. The tree had been Catherine's idea, 4 miles from Woodlawn Cemetery, close enough that Emma would be near in spirit, far enough that this day could belong to the living. When Catherine had suggested the location, Ryan had gone quiet for a long time. Then he'd said, "That's exactly right." And she'd taken his hand and said, "I know." 30 guests sat in folding chairs arranged in a semicircle on the grass. No cathedral, no ballroom, number 500-person spectacle that Catherine could have easily afforded. Just the people who mattered sitting on rented chairs watching a man in a new suit, one that actually fit this time, wait for the woman who'd given him back his life. Brad stood beside him as best man, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Not because he didn't want to be there, but because he'd already told Ryan 3 times that he was going to cry, and he didn't want to cry in front of people. Lisa and Rachel and Tom sat in the second row. Mrs. Alvarez was in the front, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief she'd been holding since she sat down, even though nothing had happened yet. And there in the front row, sat an empty chair. Emma's wedding photo rested on the seat, surrounded by yellow roses. Ryan had placed it there himself that morning, his hand steady, his heart full. Catherine hadn't just agreed to the empty chair, she'd insisted on it. "She's part of this," Catherine had said when they were planning. "She's part of you, she's part of Lily. I don't want to pretend she doesn't exist. I want her here." That was the moment Ryan had known completely without reservation that he was marrying the right person. Lily stood beside him in a cornflower blue dress that Catherine had picked out specifically for her. She clutched a small bouquet of wild flowers and bounced on her toes with energy that could have powered the entire park. "She's coming, Daddy," Lily whispered, grabbing his arm. "I can see her." Ryan looked down the makeshift aisle and his breath caught in his chest. Catherine walked toward them in a simple champagne-colored dress carrying white lilies. No veil, no train, nothing that screamed money or status or the $4 billion attached to her name. Just her, this woman who'd been dead on a sidewalk 8 months ago, who'd fought her way back, who'd found a warehouse worker and his daughter in a Bronx apartment and decided they were worth everything. But what made Ryan's throat close up was the small thing she did as she passed Emma's photograph. She stopped just for a half second, bowed her head slightly. Not a performance. Nobody in the back rows would have even noticed. Just a private gesture between Catherine and the woman who came before her. An acknowledgement, a promise. "I'm not here to erase you. I'm here to continue what you started." Ryan reached up and wiped his eyes before Lily could see. He failed. She saw. She squeezed his hand and whispered, "It's okay, Daddy. Happy crying is allowed." Catherine reached them. She took Ryan's hands. Her fingers were warm and steady. His were shaking. "Hi," she said softly. "Hi." His voice came out thick. "You look. Don't you dare make me cry before the vows." Ryan Mitchell, the officiant, a friend of Catherine's, a woman with kind eyes and a voice that carried without effort, spoke briefly about second chances. About how love doesn't divide when it's shared, it multiplies. About how the bravest thing a person can do isn't saving a life on a sidewalk. It's opening your heart after it's been broken. Then it was time. Ryan held Catherine's hands. On his right hand, Emma's wedding band. Catherine had told him the first week they were together that she never wanted him to take it off. "She's part of who you are," she'd said. "I fell in love with who you are. All of it, Catherine." His voice was steady now. The shaking had stopped. 8 months ago, I knelt on a sidewalk and tried to save a stranger. I didn't know your name. I didn't know anything about you. I just knew you were dying and I couldn't walk past." He paused. "Turns out you saved me right back. You just took longer to do it." A few people laughed through their tears. "You didn't replace anyone. You can't replace someone like Emma. But you showed me that my heart was big enough for another chapter. That love doesn't end. It grows into something new. You're not the end of one story or the beginning of another. You're the continuation. The proof that the best parts of who we are don't die. They just find new ways to live." Catherine's eyes were already shining. She held his hands tighter. Ryan, before I met you, I thought wealth meant buildings and balance sheets and my name on a stock ticker. I had everything the world says you're supposed to want. And then I died on a sidewalk and a man I'd never met brought me back. And when I opened my eyes and saw white ceiling tiles and heard machines beeping, you know what my first thought was? She paused. I thought I have nobody to call. $4 billion. And there wasn't a single person I wanted to call and say, I'm alive. Not one. The silence in the park was absolute. You changed that, you and Lily. You gave me something I'd spent 50 years being too busy to build, a family. Her voice cracked slightly, then steadied. And I promise to honor Emma's memory every single day. By loving the man she loved, by raising the daughter she raised. By being worthy of the life she built that I get to be part of now. Ryan's jaw tightened. He blinked hard. Brad behind him had given up fighting it entirely and was openly crying into his sleeve. Now, the officiant said, her own voice, not entirely steady. I believe someone else has something to say. Lily stepped forward. She unfolded a piece of notebook paper, the same kind she'd used to write her list of reasons Daddy should take the job, the same kind she'd used to draw hearts in a hospital waiting room. Her hands shook as she held it up. I wrote this myself, she announced. Nobody helped me. Then she read, family isn't about having the same blood. Family is about choosing to stand together. It's about loving someone even when it's hard. She paused, took a breath. My mommy in heaven picked my daddy because he has the biggest heart. And now Miss Catherine picked us because she has a big heart, too. Some kids have one mom. Her voice wobbled, but held. I'm lucky I have two. One who watches from the stars and one who's here to hold my hand. She looked up from the paper and I think that's pretty special. There wasn't a dry eye in 30 chairs. Mrs. Alvarez had given up on the handkerchief and was using both hands to cover her face. Brad turned completely around to compose himself. Lisa was holding Tom's arm, both of them crying freely. Ryan pulled Lily into his arms. Then Catherine wrapped herself around both of them. The three of them stood there under the oak tree, a warehouse worker, a billionaire, and a 9-year-old girl holding on. The photographer captured it. Later, when Ryan saw the photo, he'd think it was the most important picture ever taken of him. Not because of how they looked, but because of what it proved. That family isn't something you're born into. It's something you build with your hands and your heart and your stubborn refusal to stop loving. After the rings were exchanged, Ryan's new band on his left hand, Emma's still on his right, both catching the October light, Lily took Catherine's hand and led her to the empty chair. She knelt down and placed her small bouquet on the seat right next to Emma's photo. Hi, Mommy, she said, clear enough for everyone to hear. Thank you for sending us, Miss Catherine. I know you're here, I can feel it. Catherine knelt beside her. She didn't say anything. She just touched the photograph gently, the way you touch something sacred, and stayed there for a moment with her head bowed. Ryan watched from a few feet away, his two worlds touching. The woman he'd lost and the woman he'd found connected through a child who understood love better than any adult he'd ever known. The reception was at their new home, a 3-bedroom house in Queens with a small yard where Lily had already planted a garden. Not a mansion, not a penthouse, just a house that felt like theirs. Tables in the backyard, a barbecue that Ryan insisted on manning himself, paper plates, cold beer potato salad from Mrs. Alvarez's secret recipe that she'd refused to share for 40 years, but had written down as a wedding gift. Brad stood up to give a toast. He held his beer awkwardly like he wasn't sure what to do with his other hand. I'm terrible at speeches, so I'll keep this short. When Ryan first walked into Sterling Tech, I didn't think he belonged. I was wrong. He looked at Ryan. He taught me that you don't judge a man by his resume. You judge him by what he does when nobody's watching and by what he does when everybody's watching. And it would be easier to walk away. He raised his glass. Ryan, you're one of the best men I know. Catherine, you're lucky to have him. Hell, we all are. Mrs. Alvarez went next. Her English was thick with emotion. Her words simple and devastating. I watched this family grow from pain, from nothing. I watched them struggle. I watched them cry them. Now I watch them stand together. She raised her glass with both hands. This is what hope looks like. Then Catherine stood. She pulled Ryan up with her. I have one more thing, she said. We're establishing the Emma Mitchell Memorial Scholarship Fund. Ryan turned to her. She hadn't told him about this part. Full college scholarships for children from single-parent households who show academic promise but can't afford higher education because Emma believed in giving people chances. She believed that hard work and love could overcome anything. Catherine looked at Ryan. This is how we keep her alive. By continuing the values she lived by making sure other families like Ryan and Lily get the same opportunity that brought us together. Ryan couldn't speak. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. He pulled Catherine close and held her, his face pressed against her shoulder. Tears running freely. Not sad tears, not grief, just the overwhelming physical weight of being loved by someone who understood that honoring the past and embracing the future weren't opposite things. She gave you this life, Catherine whispered against his ear. I'm just honored to be part of what she started. Lily grabbed the microphone someone had set up for toasts. She didn't ask permission. Can I say something? She didn't wait for an answer. I just want everyone to know that I have 3 parents. 1 in heaven, 2 right here. She raised her juice box with absolute seriousness. And that makes me the luckiest kid in the entire world. Everyone laughed. Everyone cheered. Everyone raised whatever they were holding. Beer, wine, water. 1 more juice box from the kid next door who'd been invited to play. As the sun dropped toward the horizon and guests started leaving, Ryan and Catherine found themselves on the small front porch. The first stars were appearing over Queens. Inside, Lily was showing the neighbors' kids her bedroom and explaining with great authority how the human heart worked. Any regrets? Catherine asked, leaning against him. 1, she looked at him. I wish Emma could have met you. I think you two would have been friends. I think she has met me, Catherine said softly. Through you, through Lily. Every time you show me what love looks like, that's her. Every time Lily teaches me something about being brave, that's Emma. She took his hand. She's here, Ryan. She's in everything good about this family. Ryan pulled her closer. He looked up at the sky at the stars beginning to fill the darkness and he spoke quietly not just to Catherine but to someone else. Baby, thank you for Lily for teaching me what love is. For showing me that the hard times were just adventures I hadn't figured out yet. And thank you for whatever you did to bring Catherine to us. Daddy Catherine, Lily's voice rang out from inside. Come read to me, I want both of you. They looked at each other and smiled. Not the complicated, weighted smile of people trying to figure things out. Just the simple, easy smile of people who'd already found what they were looking for. In Lily's room, Emma's photo sat on the nightstand. Catherine's science books lined the shelves. Drawings covered every inch of wall, stick figures holding hands, 3 of them, 2 tall and 1 small, standing under a yellow sun. They settled on either side of her bed, and Lily handed them a book about stars and constellations. Read the part about how stars never really die, she instructed, already burrowing under the covers, how their light keeps traveling forever. Ryan and Catherine took turns reading, their voices overlapping in the quiet room. When they finished the chapter, Lily was almost asleep, her breathing slow and deep. Love you, Mommy, Catherine, she murmured. Love you, too, sweetheart. Love you, Daddy. Love you more, baby girl. And love you, too, Mommy Emma. Lily's voice was barely a whisper now. Wherever you are. Ryan reached across the bed and took Catherine's hand. In the soft light, he could see both wedding bands. The old one on his right, the new one on his left. Both mattered. Both belonged. Both told the truth about who he was. A man who'd loved deeply, lost completely, and found the courage to love again. In the hallway, Catherine stopped and turned to him. Thank you, she said. For what? For being patient, for letting me into something sacred, for trusting me with Lily, and for never making me feel like I was competing with a ghost. She's not a ghost, Ryan said. She's family, same as you. Always. Catherine kissed him. Then they walked downstairs together, past the wedding photos on the wall, old ones and new ones, side by side, one story flowing into the next. Past Lily's artwork showing 3 parents instead of 2. Past the small things that made a house a home. Shoes by the door, a jacket over a chair, a coffee mug that said, World's Best Dad with the D crossed out and replaced with a crayon written everything. Outside the city hummed, cars and sirens and voices and all the noise of 10 million people living their lives. But inside this house in Queens, 3 people who'd found each other against every odd had exactly what they needed. Not money, though they had that now. Not status, not a perfect story with no rough edges, just love. The kind that doesn't run out. The kind that doesn't ask you to forget. The kind that proves family isn't blood. It's a choice you make every single morning when you wake up and decide to show up for each other again. Ryan locked the front door, turned off the porch light, headed upstairs to the bedroom he shared with his wife. And he thought, as he'd think every night for the rest of his life, that saving a stranger on a sidewalk was the easiest thing he'd ever done. The hard part was letting himself be saved right back. But that in the end was the richest gift of all.